Hello and welcome to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard. Thank you so much for joining us for another segment. In this segment, we're going to be speaking with Dr. Theresa Bak-Thomsen. She's joining us here as a Director of Discovery Biologics at Novo Nordisk to talk about how her multifaceted team is exploring new modes of action to discover potential new therapies and provide insight into what it takes to discover and develop new antibodies for medical conditions. Welcome to Health Professional Radio, Dr. Thompson. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, as Director of Discovery Biologics at Novo Nordisk Research Center in Seattle, give us a little bit of insight into your professional background.
I'm a scientist by training, and I have a background in areas of innate immunity, T-cell biology, different parts of the immune response. So I've had a focus on antibody discovery throughout my career. So in academia, it was mostly used as tools, but here in Novo, more heavily sort of on a therapeutic or drug compound. So I joined Novo 11 years ago as a postdoc, and I've had various roles. So both a scientist, where I worked with development of assays to screen both antibodies and peptides. I've also been a project manager, and for the last 4 years, I've been heading up the antibody technology until 6 months ago, where I moved to Seattle. I was very fortunately to be able to relocate to a position as leading discovery biologics. And here we work with many diverse proteins, so not just antibodies.
Well, if you would, Doctor, discuss how you led a team that explores new modes of action for potential new therapies. What does it take to discover and develop new antibodies for medical conditions? I know that's what your area of expertise is.
Yes, so I can talk a lot about antibodies, but because it's a very interesting topic, and given the pandemic, I think a lot of us know more about antibodies. So antibodies is a part of our body ability to fight infections, and when we utilize antibodies as therapeutics, we actually mimic that. So the body has a fantastic ability to develop proteins that can bind to almost any structure. So there are many technologies with how you can develop antibodies, but the most important thing is to get something that's specific, something that has the functionality you need, and something that can be produced. And this is how we work in the pharma industry with anything, also other modalities than antibodies.
There at Novo Nordisk Seattle, what are you most focused on? Antibodies for which specific conditions?
So if I can talk a little bit about Novo. So Novo is probably most famous for the pharmaceutical products in the diabetes and obesity space, but we're also working in a lot of other disease areas. And here at the Seattle site, which is one of our global sites where we are headquartered in Denmark, but the Seattle site, we have a very broad span of scientists with different backgrounds, and we sort of focus mostly on sort of the interface between biology, behavior, and technology. So we have scientists in the metabolic space, the kidney space, and the type 1 diabetes. And then we also have technology unit in computational design, in peptides, in proteins, and in devices. So there is this very unique positioning in Seattle. Also the ecosystem here that makes us able to walk into a new way of generating pharmaceutical compounds.
In your experience, Doctor, what role has AI played in your research there in the Seattle Research Center?
So here in the Seattle Research Center, we have a very heavily focus on artificial intelligence. And the use of artificial intelligence is becoming more and more important in the design of new drugs. And here at the Seattle Center, we're also very much focusing on that. So what we do is at the Seattle side is that we couple sort of the computational design with some wet lab high throughput experiments to make reinforced learning to make better molecules for the patients, because this is why we're here.
Now, speaking of the center there in Seattle, traditional treatment options for health conditions that we're talking about, they're often aimed at patients who are already sick or maybe focused on some symptom management. And that would be, it, just symptom management. I understand there at in Seattle, you're basically talking about the potential to prevent and cure some of these chronic diseases such as liver disease, obesity, and diabetes as well.
Yeah, that is true. And these are some of the interesting things that we're moving into in the pharma industry, is that we're looking at the patient from a more holistic view. So it's not the therapeutic drug in itself, it's very important, but we also want to see at a lot of other aspects of the patient. So that we're not only interested in the drug itself, but also how it affects people's lives. So we actually try to have a focus on that here in Seattle with what we call intent to prevent. And another thing that's very important here is also to understand the disease in more detail. So we use a lot of data to try to understand that. And if we can understand that, we can really change the treatment of tomorrow. So this is one of our biggest aims right now.
You said that you've worn many hats since joining Novo Nordisk. Talk about some of the challenges and triumphs as a woman in what I understand is a male-dominated field of research.
Yeah, so it is. As a scientist, you do tend to be the only woman in the room, but that is luckily changing, I think, during the last 10 to 15 years. More and more women are luckily getting on board. I think one of the challenges that is mostly in that question, or for me, has been to be secure in what I am and in what I can deliver that is maybe different from the male background. But that being said, I think science is a fantastic area, and and I really hope that more girls will be interested in the tech development and also science field.
There are programs in place, as you say, for girls to be more exposed to the sciences, to technologies, engineering, and mathematics in the STEM programs. Is that something that you were exposed to in any capacity?
Well, so when I was a student, there was not that many programs. So there it was more the idea of having someone who can mentor, and this is also what is sort of the core of many STEM programs, to have people you can look up to and people where you can actually understand what a job in this field entails and how you become a scientist. And I think that's very, very important for the future, that we can give a variety, not only boys and girls, but also from a variety of backgrounds, the opportunity to know more about science and the excitement that it is to work with science.
Give us a website where we can learn more about Novo Nordisk.
That is www.novonordisk.com. There will be a variety of information both about the therapy areas and also the way that we work.
Dr. Thomsen, I appreciate you taking time to join us here on Health Professional Radio. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard, in conversation with Dr. Theresa Bak-Thomsen. Audio copies of this program are available at hpr.fm and healthprofessionalradio.com.au. You can also subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, listen in, download at SoundCloud, and be sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Health Professional Radio.